Okay. Hello. Thank you for that warm welcome. Ivan, thank you. Nicole, very excited to be here. Let's get started. So I'm going to talk about AI in the context of verifiable compute. Part of what I'm going to do is explain to you why you should believe that I know anything about that. We were actually very early innovators in that direction, but we were very pragmatic as well. So let me tell you about the team for a second. We're extremely technical. I have a graduate degree in physics. My brother's co-founder has got a PhD in AI. Gene's a professor of applied cryptography at the MIT Lincoln Labs. And we've got a very strong team across the other functions. Michael Lustig was at BlackRock managing director for 25 years, is our external board member. Brian, who was a founder of Republic Capital, just joined us recently, but very excited to have him responsible for strategy. And Ash Gottesman, who's a co-founder and has been involved with us across our successful other companies, has a very strong background in private equity. We've had a lot of success. We've got lots of patents. We've exited many companies and have had leading Silicon Valley investors. So when I think about AI and cryptography, I would say the good news is the only software stack that will survive what AI is going to do to software is cryptography. Because cryptography cannot do AI and AI cannot do cryptography. So what does that mean? To me it means that blockchain will inevitably run on an AI VM. And I'm going to explain what that means in a second. But it doesn't mean that it's going to make use of AI to write Solidity code. It will actually have an AI-based VM. So why are we positioned to do something useful here, and why do we know anything about the topic, or at least why do I know anything about the topic? What Jiritsu does is verified compute. Well, how did we get here? We started off thinking about how do we make AI work in the context of blockchain. That was our background. We had been doing some quant trading for a very large hedge fund in New York City. And we recognized that there was a problem. AI is a black box, and the blockchain is transparent. This is back in 2020. We recognized that the only way to use AI in the context of blockchain was to make AI more transparent, and I'll talk about what we mean by that. But in the interim, as AI was starting to get adopted, we recognized that there's a more fundamental problem, which is verifiable compute. Why do we need verifiable compute? Because the core limitations of the blockchain are limited compute, no access to external data, and no true automation, because blockchains can't act on themselves. So to solve this problem, we developed a ZK NPC framework that can verify any computational workflow. Just say a few words about what we're doing, and then I'll come back to AI. Our core belief is just as all voice is over IP, all video is streaming, and all e-commerce is online, all financial transactions will be on-chain. And that is an inevitable future. It's been kicked off by Franklin Templeton, who will be joining us at our panel, who we're working very closely with at BlackRock as they brought assets on-chain. But this means there will be trillions of dollars of transactions on-chain. This is our go-to-market focus, but it's not what I'm going to be talking about. Just to understand the context, verifiable compute is the requirement for bridging the information in the real-world assets to the tokenization space. Hopefully, if I do a good job, I'll lead you down a path of thought around core beliefs and core principles. Okay, so just to bring it back, all software is AI. So the virtual machine for smart contracts must be AI. It's absolutely inevitable. There will be no other type of software going forward other than cryptography. So what does that mean? It means that smart contracts will run in the form of natural language interacting with large language models, or GPTs. I have to give a lot of credit to Gore of Avalanche, who really sharpened this idea in his talk in Dubai. So that means that every transaction will need to have an AI action. Otherwise, it will not be able to happen, because the smart contract that governs it must be running in AI. So this is an example in the context of our go-to-market. Say you want to tokenize a fund, and that fund is described by a PPM, a private placement memorandum. Instead of having various layers of interaction and coding and frameworks in order to govern the KYC and the other rules, say for compliance, in order to get a fractional ownership in that fund through tokenization, all you do is you give the PPM to the AI, and you tell the AI, you can only buy this token if you're compliant with the PPM. That's how simple things will be and how complex and the capabilities that the VM needs to have. Now, if you think about how is it possible to have AI as part of the virtual machine, there is one other core requirement. And that core requirement is that the AI cannot be stochastic. The AI has to be deterministic. It cannot have any random elements. And why is that? Because a smart contract requires a consensus mechanism. You cannot have consensus if there's variability in the system. So what that tells you is that the only way you can have an AI VM is if you have verifiable compute. So just to summarize, and then I'll take you down a little bit of our evolution and where we are and where we're headed in terms of development. If you go back, all software is going to be AI. Therefore, all smart contracts have to run on AI. AI can only be part of the blockchain ecosystem if there's consensus. You can only have consensus if the AI is deterministic, because otherwise you'll have nodes who will come up with things that are not consistent and you can't get to a consensus mechanism. The only way to get consensus mechanism is by verifying the AI. Therefore, Jiritsu holds the keys to verifiable AI. So again, kind of our claim on leadership is that back in 2021, we published an initial white paper around making inferencing transparent. We call that blockchain explainable AI. Then we recognized that the opportunity in the market required that we solve a more general problem of verifiable compute, and so we developed our ZK and MPC nodes, and we're taking this to market in the context of asset tokenization with strong institutional partners. The next thing we recognized is you need a ledger, and in the infrastructure we added a layer 1, which is part of the Avalanche ecosystem that represents the entire package of the verifiable compute proving system that's being utilized in tokenization with the institutional partners. But in order to have full verification and make sure that your AI can have a consensus mechanism, you have to go deeper into the stack. This is something we recognized early on, and that requires that in addition to having verifiable compute being enforced with the magic of zero knowledge and multi-party computation and all the things that we've built, you also need to be able to get into the hardware stack in order to get to the attestations and to ensure that there's no variability in the result, because otherwise you don't have a consensus, you have confusion. To that end, we're partnering with what is now still confidential, a very large hardware manufacturer who will be working with us on launching the platform for the ZK secured and verified AI virtual machine. We expect to have this in beta before the end of the year. So we're very excited about that. We see this as a tremendous evolution in blockchain in general, because it's inevitable, it has to happen, and we're in a position to make it real. In addition, there'll be one more stage. That stage is something that is in my mind. It's not fully articulated, but my intuition is very strong that there will be a different type of ledger that has to be developed because prompts will be more complex. Things like chains of consciousness and other recursive elements of prompting will require a slightly different type of ledger framework. And we'll do that in 2025 when I figure it out. So this is the evolution, and because I'm a nerd, and maybe there's some other nerds here, I think of it as there and back again. We started with AI, we returned to AI. Those of you who may or may not know that The Hobbit was called There and Back Again in the subtext. So I think of this as maybe Token2049. Thank you very much.